The Clemson Tigers lose again. Is Dabo Swinney's relevance essentially finished?
You're talking ball with the ACC squad. From Florida State to North Carolina, from Syracuse to Miami, and from NC State to California, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming ACC weekend. Hang on, it could get loud, it could get heated, and it will definitely be fun. Squad up, you're part of the ACC squad.
The ACC has been turned upside down, and the squad is assembled. So you've got the conference is adding 9 conference games and a minimum 10 Power 4 opponents. You've got Clemson, everybody's preseason pick to win the ACC, essentially eliminated already, 2 games into their conference schedule. Thank you so much for making the ACC squad your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. I am Alex Dono from Locked On Canes. On this episode of the squad, we got Isaac Shade from Locked On Tar Heels. We got JJ Jackson from Locked On Blue Devils. Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. And all right, Kenton, 34-20, the Syracuse Orange beat the Clemson Tigers, 34-21, I should say, in Death Valley. What? Dabo Swinney had melted down before that game, pointing everyone to his resume. We've won 8 of the last 10 ACC championships. If Clemson's tired of winning, they can get rid of me. And then Clemson goes out and does that in a game where, and best of recovery to Steve Angeli, the Syracuse starting quarterback suffers, unfortunately, a season-ending injury in the third quarter. Ricky Collins has to come in. Never really felt close for the Clemson Tigers. I mean, Kenton Gibbs we talked about it the last couple of weeks, the alarm bells at Clemson, but is this now becoming something that will define perhaps the end of the Dabo Swinney era at Clemson?
This is the nail in the coffin.
What?
This is the nail. I'm being very serious right now.
Wow.
I know people are going to say, or actually, let me not say this is the nail in the coffin. This ain't the last moment. Let me not say that. But this is an important domino. This is an inflection point at which we will look back and say, what are the 2 to 3 defining moments? This may be the second to last one. I have talked about this on this show, and I will say it again. Dabo is doing that thing where it's everybody else's fault. Oh, I can't, they've won so much under me. I can't be wrong. Why is that? Why is that? What does that mean? Yeah, they won a lot under you in the past. And what does that have to do with what you are doing right now? This is the ultimate lack of accountability. You are supposed to be held to a different standard, and you should enjoy being held to a different standard. When I was a kid and me and my sister got the same GPA and my mom would be up my behind about it, but she would tell my sister, good job. I didn't understand it because I was 8. I didn't understand the mismatch of expectations, right? Now that I'm 30, I get, my mom saw your aptitude for success academically is higher than that of your sister. That's the expectation. There's a difference. Same thing is happening.
I feel like your sister just caught a stray here somehow.
No. My sister is the first person
in this episode.
My sister is the first person in our family to get a master's. So for all of the lack of academic success she had when we were kids, she found a way to get more degrees than me. I just got a bachelor's. But the reality of this thing is simple. Dabo is sitting here and he's shown we can be more successful. They're being less successful. They're 1-3. They have not beat a single Power 4 team all year. And here's a more interesting part. They trailed by double digits in every single game that they played against Power 4 teams this year.
And they were down double digits against Troy as well.
So they were down double digits in every single game they played this year. And we're the problem, Dabo. They were down by 20 points in this game. It was 34-14 for the third quarter, basically. And you're going to sit here and tell me that we've got the problem, and the media is the problem, and Tyler for Spartanburg is the problem, and JJ Jackson is the problem, Isaac Shade is the problem, Alex Dono is the problem. Is everybody but Dabo. This is I take it back saying it's the nail in the coffin, but this is one of the biggest inflection points that when we look back and say, what are the moments that characterize Clemson's downfall? This will be it, because this is something that I will give Florida State their credit. They turned around their cultural route in what seems like a year. Clemson, you've got to do the same thing. Clemson, you've got to come back and say, this is who we are. Everybody holds themselves accountable, starting from the top and working its way down. But when the man at the top, it's always everybody else's fault. And he said, well, Isaac's kid missed a kick last week in his soccer game, and you're talking to me about winning at Clemson? Don't nobody give a damn about that soccer game, with all due respect.
Yeah, and it's always been a thing about Dabo that's rubbed me the wrong way. Like, I remember, covering 2 years ago when Clemson came down to Miami and they lost a really close game. Cade Klubnik, took off and ran when he was supposed to throw. But then after the game, Dabo Swinney threw him under the bus. Like, it was like, man, okay. Like, I even if it really was his fault, I'm not used to coaches immediately saying, oh, yeah, this is exactly what that guy did wrong, and he cost us the game. And that seems to be his personality, is to not take accountability and to, in my opinion, I'm no psychiatrist, but he comes off as a narcissist to me.
And remember the bubble screen on 3rd and 1 against Florida State that same season, when they said, what happened? Oh, we should have never. I don't know why our coordinator called a play to put him in that position. This has been bubbling under the surface for a while, but he had talented enough players to cover it up. Now that that's starting to not be the case and that talent is starting to be equal level with everybody else, it's starting to be the case. But I'm going to be quiet now because I'm going to let somebody else talk, because I've talked enough about how Dabo wants to distract from his failures.
First off, here's the good news. Clemson's not going to lose this weekend, so they can rest on those laurels, because they literally are off this weekend. And then here's what's kind of funny. The next Saturday, October 4th, they're headed to that little picture right over my shoulder there, Kenan Stadium, where they're going to play Bill Belichick in North Carolina.
That's a slump buster right there. Sorry, Isaac.
So there's a slump buster, because we've seen what the Tar Heels are. UCF. Wow. Anyway, here's my question for us. There was the string of phenomenal quarterback play for Clemson through so much of this. How much of it is on Cade's shoulders? But like, if you put Trevor Lawrence into this lineup, does it change things? That's what I've been trying to think about. Like, is it solely on, like, we're not doing it? Is it solely on, right? Like, think about how just insanely dynamic the Clemson defense has been for so many years of their greatness. Where from a player personnel standpoint do the biggest issues lie? Or is it above them and it doesn't matter what the players are doing? Does that make sense?
I mean, I'll start with the line of scrimmage on both sides has not been nearly what we thought it was going to be for them. They're supposed to have the best defensive line in the country. Because I'll say something, like, you bring up Cade Klubnik, and obviously he's no Trevor Lawrence. He's no Deshaun Watson. He's not one of those guys. But then at the same time, 2024, Cade looked like he was, not necessarily those guys, but like in that conversation. Like, he had a really good year last year. I don't know what happened this year.
Yeah, and even going beyond that for just a second here, you want to talk about it, even if you insert Trevor Lawrence. Clemson is going on an unheralded streak, or on a laughable streak, in a way that is not positive at all. Clemson has been known to produce defenders that make all ACC and are the ACC defensive players of the year after year after year. Right now, under Dabo Swinney, they're on their longest drought of not having a player be defensive player of the year. They're going on year 6, and it's not going to be a Clemson defender this year, which means it's going to make 7 years straight of no Clemson defenders winning ACC player of the year. Now, for reference on why that's important, this was an actual stretch. 2019, Isaiah Simmons. 2018, Cleveland Farrell. 2016, Ben Boulware. 2014, Vic Beasley. And 2010, Daquan Bowers. So that's the type of stretch and type of fall off we're looking at in terms of defenders performing for the Clemson Tigers.
It's Trevor Lawrence, it's Deshaun Watson, it's Taj Boyd, it's Kelly Bryant. I mean, there have been quarterbacks who don't even live up to NFL billing that have helped put Clemson in a good spot. When you look at a team that struggles, I think you first and foremost go to that quarterback position. So fair or unfair, you've got to start with Cade Klubnik, who all of us believed would be one of the top quarterbacks, not only in the conference, but in the entire sport. NFL GMs were starting to get excited about what this guy could be at the next level. And it's just wild to think about how far off we are. The other thing that was a little surprising to me about Saturday's game too. There was an hour and a half weather delay during halftime. You're still down 10 points. How much more time do you need to find some way to rally your troops and try to let them know the weight of this? Like, we are staring 1-3 we're staring at it. You don't get those opportunities often. Typically, Kenton can speak to this as a former player. Halftime, you're in and you're out. They had an hour and a half to try and clean things up, only down by 10 at that point, and still came out so flat in the second half. Really embarrassing.
And we were chatting over the weekend, fellas, like in the midst of games in our ACC hosts chat, and Jackson was saying those exact things. Obviously, we wish he was here today to be able to dance on Dabo's grave a little bit. But good grief, you could tell he was worried about that exact thing, JJ, that you just talked about, and clearly it didn't matter, even with their quarterback going down in the third quarter. I mean, it's crazy, y'all.
I'm starting to think that Dabo's losing his touch as a motivator. I'm starting to think that he is running into problems that, again, it's not easy to come back from. And again, this is why I give so much credit to what Norvell is doing this year, because so often when I see a coach lose the culture, that's over. It's over. You don't come back from that. When the culture is established as something different than what it's been for years, it's over. But Dabo has to publicly go out and make it all on me, put it all on me. It's all about me. It's all about what I've done wrong. I need to be better. Or else this team is going to continue their streak of 1-3 and getting worse. They're going to continue that no ACC defensive player. They're going to continue all those bad things that you don't suspect of Clemson in the 2010s and 2020s.
Well, coming up next, I'm going to give all of us an opportunity to amend the things that we said about a month ago right before the season started, because I think all four of us in some way, shape, or form had Clemson in the ACC championship game. Not saying it's impossible, but at 0-2 in conference, probably not happening for Dabo this year. So who do we see in the ACC title game come December in Charlotte? And the ACC has now revolutionized their scheduling. They're copying what the other Power Four conferences are doing. However, nothing's easy in the ACC. We'll explain. You want to keep it locked right here. We're only getting started on the squad. Folks, it's almost the weekend. And it's time to look back and check on this week's MVP in Who Delivered, brought to you by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. Well, for the Miami Hurricanes, Ruben Hurricane Bain delivered in a big way. Highest graded defensive player in the country, highest rated defensive lineman, I think, for the fourth straight week. When the pressure was on, Ruben Bain, Miami edge rusher, came through, no hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, you know that performance was not a fluke, Bain against Florida. Bain is on a streak. And just like Ruben Bain delivered for the Hurricanes, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season. You could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period goes through November 18th. Friends, we're also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here. College football's in full swing, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy into your Saturdays and Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Thank you for making the ACC squad your first listen and your first watch. All right, so JJ, I'll let you buy the first round on this one. Now that we've seen what we've seen, and Clemson is like close to being mathematically eliminated from the ACC championship game, who do you think are going to be the two teams that match up in Charlotte come December?
Yeah, I definitely was one who thought Clemson would be one of those squads that would be not only winning the ACC, but I was going as far to say this is a team that seriously could go out and win a national championship. I think if we go back to those preseason predictions, I had Clemson in Miami. Still feel good about what Miami's shown so far. And then I think you got to stay in the state of Florida with what it's looking like right now. To me, through the first 4 weeks of the season, the two best teams in our conference have clearly both resided in the Sunshine State when you look at Miami and you look at Florida State.
For me, guys, I'm with you, JJ, with what you said, but guess what? Not this Saturday, but next, those two teams that you just mentioned played each other.
Yep.
And to me, this is going to be a scheduling quirk that's going to decide the other team. It's one of those two. Right now, I'm going with Miami. I think they look better than Florida State. But let me read to you boys the rest of Georgia Tech's ACC schedule.
Please do.
At Wake Forest versus Virginia Tech, at Duke versus Syracuse, at State, at Boston College, hosting Pitt, and then UGA, which obviously won't matter in the ACC standings. So because of the schedule that the Yellow Jackets have in front of them,
they're in a good spot.
In my mind, they got to run the table to do it, because I don't see Florida State and Miami, whichever loses that game, unless they trip up, losing another. So if Georgia Tech does what they should do, and again, we looked at it the other week, and if I remember correctly, they're favored in every one of those games. It's going to be Georgia Tech, and I'm going to go with the Canes beating Florida State and then also getting into that championship game.
Dono, the diamond tester is going to come out in a couple weeks.
Sure.
It's going to come out in a couple weeks, because I think it's a chance that Florida State chain fake. I know everybody's going to say Florida State has looked fantastic and all those good things. They blew out Bama. That's a Bama team that dominated everybody since then. But who have they actually dominated since then? In terms of
the mighty Kent State, whatever they
are.
But
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Bama ain't played nobody. Neither have they. And you can say Wisconsin is somebody. Are you sure about that? Because Fickle is almost unanimously voted as one of the hottest seats in the Big Ten in Wisconsin. They're trying to sue to keep players part of the program. Donald knows that intimately well. So they've got some problems up there. But here's the thing. I'm not saying that Florida State has no shot. I'm just saying I want to see them up against a team that I think is really, really good, because I had a feeling, I believed that Bama was going to whoop the wheels off them, but I didn't think that was going to say much about Bama. It just turns out I was wrong about how good Bama was or was not, but that is still to be seen. But like you said, Isaac, the wreck is rambling. Haynes King is scrambling. Georgia Tech is moving their way to Charlotte. They are going to be in the ACC championship, not just because of the schedule, but because they have the two things that travel: a run game and a defense.
That's right.
Those are the two things that you need when it gets late in the season, when it gets rainy, when it gets nasty outside, when it gets mucky, when it gets cold. You need both of those. And they have both at a high level that they've shown off multiple times against Power 4 teams this year. I got Georgia Tech and Miami in the ACC championship.
Yeah, I agree. But like a part of me, I would love to see Miami versus Florida State twice. And that's Jim Phillips's dream matchup, because that would make you a ton of money if that was your AC. They've been waiting more than 20 years. They've never gotten that ACC championship game. Like, that would be probably the biggest thing for the conference. But I'm with you guys on thinking I'm going to take a leap of faith on Georgia Tech this year. Like, I just think that they're a more complete team than they've been the past couple of years. Past couple of years, they've always shown up for the big games. And I know that. They beat Miami 2 straight years. They took Georgia to 8 overtimes last year, but they tend to slip up in some of the lesser games. But their schedule is so lesser the rest of the way this year. And I feel like the same way I feel Miami's built a little different than it's been the last couple of years. I think the same about Georgia Tech. So I'm going to go Miami versus Georgia Tech in the ACC championship game. All right, so the big news in the ACC this week, fellas, is the move up to, and the SEC just announced this weeks ago that they're going to 9 conference games. The Big Ten and the Big 12 already do it. The ACC is following suit. It was announced early this week. The ACC is going to go to 9 conference games, which it's fine. I guess everyone else is doing it, but I like the fact that the ACC, and you need this when your conference is not as strong as a couple of the others are, that Jim Phillips is mandating that you have to play 10 Power 4 opponents. So in addition to your ACC schedule, you can't do like what the Penn State and Nittany Lions are doing this year, playing a bunch of junior colleges outside of their Big Ten schedule. You have to have an extra Power 4 game. The SEC mandates the same thing. But here's what makes a 9-game schedule a little more complicated for the Atlantic Coast Conference. Like, nothing's easy with the ACC. It just means less, I guess. So because there's 17 football teams in the conference, not 16, not 18, because there's 17, you can't mathematically have all 17 teams play 9 conference games a year. So the way the ACC has to do this is one team per year, rotating basis, is only going to play 8 conference games, while the rest play 9. I'm yet to see it written anywhere how that's going to work, if there are tie-breaking scenarios. Like, I feel like this is going to be opening Pandora's box if it comes down to it. But the ACC will have 16 teams, and Kenton, I'll let you buy the first round on this one. 16 teams will play 9 conference games. 1 will play 8.
Well, I'm sorry, but we don't have 16. We don't have 17 teams. We have 18 teams in the ACC, right? I mean, the ACC tip-off, there are 18 teams represented there, right?
Yes, that sounds factually correct to me, Kenton Gibbs.
Oh, okay. So what's going on here? Oh, that's right. We still giving Notre Dame all of the milk without having to buy the cow. Hey, listen, I get it, Phillips. I get it. You want to have these agreements with Notre Dame, and you think if you're favorable to them, everything will work out. Y'all remember the COVID year where we gave a bunch of Notre Dame players, any Notre Dame player that was decent won a postseason award that year. Even the players that played their same position were statistically better in every way. I'm looking at you, JOK and Peyton Wilson. I'm looking at that, but that's neither here nor there. I'm saying this to say, at some point in time, you have to lock down Notre Dame into a firmer commitment, or at least saying, hey, you all are going to count as an ACC game now. Even if you don't want to join, we don't care. We have to do this because mathematically it hurts us to not have you in. Mathematically, we have to work out some wonky stuff in tiebreakers, and it's going to end up like it was on Friday Night Lights, where we're flipping a coin to see who goes to the ACC championship, and whichever 2 teams get the same, if it's heads or tails, whichever 2 teams get the same one, they go, and whoever is wrong is out. We don't want to do that. So Notre Dame, get your tail in here and commit to playing more of our guys. How about it? Because at this point in time, this is an embarrassment to the conference that we are imposing this. Hey, you've got to play non-conference games, and we're taking it a step further than everybody else. You're going to play 10 Power 4. I love that, but we're still at odds, and we're still going to have to figure out some potential weirdities or oddities here because we don't have that 18th team, when in reality we do. They're right there, and they've got agreements to play multiple teams in our conference.
Hey, shouts to Booby Miles and Mike Winchell and Friday Night Lights. That's great stuff from KG. There's also, we've got the wrinkle of several of these schools in the ACC thinking Clemson, thinking Georgia Tech, thinking Louisville, and who's the fourth? There's another
Florida
one
State.
Florida State and Florida. Yeah.
Has a non-ACC rivalry game Thanksgiving week, basically. And so that is going to be their 10th. But several of these schools, like Clemson, who just signed this 12-year agreement with who was it again? Oh, Notre Dame to play. And so that would give them 11 games. 11 games for Clemson. That's not something that has got to give. There's all this. We're already seeing SEC schools cancel some of their scheduling agreements they've made because of this new rule. And so, I think there's a lot more to be done and ironed out and figured out here, but it just felt like we got to rush to get this figured out and announced so we can say it, even if we don't know what the crap we're eventually going to do. Something's got to give. I like the Notre Dame call, but we'll see. It's a weird thing, boys.
The point you're making, Kenton, is that we have seen this, that in 2020, during the COVID pandemic, there was a 10-game schedule where Notre Dame played all 10 ACC games. The ACC honored them. So many players got recognized as all conference selections, yada, yada. They've done this before. If you're Notre Dame, you've done this. You've experienced life in the ACC, and you do it in every other sport that's out there. It's super easy. And look, it just, at the end of the day, like we're talking about, the math doesn't math with 17. And I like it when it does. And so let's figure out a way to make this 18 teams within the conference so that you can commit to that 19-game schedule. Otherwise, they're saying, 16 teams will play 9 ACC games. Somebody's only going to play 8, but then they'll have to make up for that by making sure they have at least 2 Power 5 games. If we can get Notre Dame just to suck it up and join a conference that would help them out and benefit them, all these problems are for naught.
Well, that's my thing, JJ. I don't even need them to join the conference. I need the ACC to grow a spine and say, you know what? If you're going to sign all these agreements and do all this, you're part of – we're going to consider you part of our conference schedule now so that we no longer have to do all this figuring out and all that. And – I
either want them in or I disagree with you on that, Kay. I either want them to be in or out. Like I don't need them to get more of that milk for free, like you were saying.
Well, here's my biggest thing. They've already signed the agreements and they've already said, well, we're going to play the bigger brands more. The other part of them in this agreement that I would like, even if you don't want to join as a full member, you still have to play a rotation of these teams instead of picking specifically the biggest brands, because that's not fair to Miami. That's not fair to Clemson. That's not fair to Florida State. That you're going to have to play one of the most powerful teams, one of the most powerful brands in all of sports, not just college football, not just America, in all of sports, Notre Dame is, and you've got to play them, and that won't count towards your 9. What? What are we doing here? That won't count towards your 10 for Power 4 teams. What are we doing?
Hey, why are we so caught up on adding somebody? Why can't we just like kick out let's get rid of Boston College or something like that? That seems like clearly the reasonable choice.
Go to the curb. Yeah.
Addition by subtraction. That's where I'm at.
See what happens when you don't join AJ Black? Exactly. See what happens? We wanted you to join, AJ. We were asking. But no, I will be okay with getting rid of Bill O'Brien. Getting rid of BC altogether is a different story. Okay, let's hold our horses here.
All right, fine. Well, somebody's got.
Are we keeping Stanford just for the GPA? Like, look, I know they just got in, but do we really need you?
NC State let that happen. I blame Kenton and Grayson for that one.
I'm sorry. I like Cousin Kyle and Cousin Stanford being in the mix. Say what you want. Say what you want. Call me a bad guy. I like them being here. I love SMU being here. That makes my heart smile. So you're never going to get me to apologize for that. If I've got to apologize for the Pony Express to be here, it'll be a cold day in hell. It'll be a cold.
Well, let's talk about some Week 5 games when we come back. I'll steal the phrase from Kenton Gibbs. I think we're going to find out if the Florida State chain is for real this Friday night. You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of the ACC Squad. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than just put points on the board. They move crowds, they move culture, and they keep moving the game forward. I got to say, Justice Ross Simmons, receiver at Syracuse, keeps making plays after plays. He scored 2 touchdowns against Clemson. All he does is catch touchdowns. He moved the game forward, guys. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Thank you for making the Locked On ACC Squad your first listen. For your next listen, make sure you check out our other shows. Kenton Gibbs not only hosts the regular Locked On ACC with me, he also hosts Locked On Wolfpack with Grayson Boone. Does an awesome job. JJ Jackson on Locked On Blue Devils, covering all things Duke. And Isaac Shade covering all things Belichick and all things UNC basketball. He also hosts Locked On College Basketball with Andy Patton. They do a fantastic job right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Now, Kenton, I am, maybe you guys disagree, but I am expecting Florida State to go into Charlottesville on Friday night and win. I know they haven't played a real opponent since week 1, and maybe Bama wasn't expecting Florida State to play the way that they did, but they look so much more physical to me. And Tommy Castellanos looks like such a weapon, always moving the chains, staying in front of the chains. I think they're going to be able to have success on the ground against Virginia. Now, the catch is, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, because Chandler Morris, UVA's quarterback, he's having an awesome start to the year. He's got over 1,000 passing yards, an 8-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. I think Virginia's going to have some juice at home on a Friday night. I just think Florida State looks better and more physical to me. I don't know what to do with the spread, because it's Florida State -6.5. I thought that number would be a little bit bigger. I think they win by 7 to 10 points on this one. Isaac, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you, Dono. I think Virginia has shown some proclivity on the offensive side of the ball, but I'm still waiting to see if it's for real. That was something, actually, we were having a debate about that in our Locked On Tar Heels Discord over the weekend because nobody was watching our game anymore as UCF pounded the Tar Heels into the ground. But we're trying to figure out, like, is Virginia, I think they were one of the teams along with Stanford that coming into the season where, like, they're in Virginia Tech, like, they're not going to have anything. But I feel like so far, at least the Virginia offense has looked better than I thought it would be. But this is, I think, a moment where we find out if that's true or not, right? Like, what's going to happen in Charlottesville at home with Florida State coming to town, wanting to, I know Florida State's 3-0, but this is their first ACC game. They're wanting to continue to prove that last year was an anomaly. And so I'm with you. I think ultimately they come in, and I'm not much of a betting man, but if I was, I think I would take Florida State to win outright here on the road and definitely cover that 6.5.
Do you see how much fun Gus Malzahn is having again as an offensive coordinator only and not having to worry about being a head coach anymore? I mean, the Auburn alum in me is having all the throwbacks and flashbacks watching this guy. This past week, I know it was Kent State. I understand that.
Golden Flashes, by the way. I got that wrong earlier.
498 rushing yards for FSU, 775 yards of offense. They did it against
8 rushing touchdowns.
They've just done it offensively all season long. I am excited to see how they continue to play. Looking forward, I hate to be the guy that's already looking ahead to that Miami game. Yes, Chandler Morris has had a good year for Virginia. I don't see them being competitive with FSU whatsoever this weekend.
Dono, I think that multiple chains are going to get the diamond tester within the next 2 weeks. I think multiple chains, we're going to put that beeper up. I'm going to stay quiet about the teams, but I have plans that I cannot tell you. The haters will foil.
Okay.
But I will say this. UVA offenses, they're high powered. They keep the sticks moving. They got one of the best returners in the conference as well. They're an offense that is going to keep this game close. The question for me is, what is Florida State's defense about? I think that's what you're going to learn in this game at a high clip. Their offense, Gus Malzahn, when you think about Tommy Castellanos, he was a Gus Malzahn recruit at UCF. He was made for this system. He was made for it. So I will admit I was wrong about the fit and whether or not they get it clicking right away, because they've gotten it cracking like a bad bat in this one. Off the back, they have gone right away and run the ball and move the chains as they wanted to. I do see them winning this game. I'm not sure if it's going to be as lopsided as you originally thought, Dono. I do see them winning, but I see it being by somewhere between 3 and 6. I think Virginia covers.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, go ahead, Isaac.
Dono, I was just going to say the game I'm most looking forward to in the ACC this weekend is the smallest point spread of ACC versus ACC. The smallest spread of any ACC game is Stanford only favored by 2.5 against San Jose State. Anyway, that aside, the smallest spread in an ACC game is Louisville on the road at Pitt. They're favored by 3.5. And Dono, you asked us in the last segment about our ACC championship teams, competitors. I remember back to that episode we did preseason where I believe Louisville got a couple votes for that ACC championship game. I feel like I might have even added them in alongside Clemson. Louisville's 3-0. They haven't played an ACC game yet. They got to go on the road, go up against Eli Holstein. I'm really interested to see what is Louisville on the road, because if they want to make any ACC noise, I think you got to start this weekend, obviously, because we got Georgia Tech looking good, like we already talked about in the schedule they have. Haynes King's got to stay healthy. We've got, the Florida State of it all, the Miami of it all. If Louisville wants to be a competitor, I need to see it on Saturday at noon Eastern on ESPN2.
And let me add to that, and I've said this to Kenton a few times on Locked On ACC. I have no idea who Louisville is yet.
Yeah.
Like, I know who they should be, because I was pretty stoked for them with the Miller Moss pickup. We've seen what Jeff Brom has done with quarterbacks in the transfer portal the past couple of years. We know what Isaac Brown and Duke Watson are capable of. But, in the one, like, not even that difficult game, but in like the semi-real game that Louisville has played so far, they didn't look very good against James Madison. The 28-14 final score, not as close as the game, or not as, a lot closer than the final score would indicate. And Isaac Brown had to break off a late run to really put that game away. Like, that was a little bit dicey for them. So I just don't know. Like, if you're talking about finding out whose chain is real, maybe the Louisville chain is. I just don't know based on the 3 games that they played so far, the other 2 opponents being complete cupcakes, and they had a bye week last week. So I think you're right to bring up this game, Isaac, because this is going to show us against a tough Pitt team and a tough Pitt defense. It's going to show us who Louisville is.
I agree to an extent because Narduzzi shows us a tale of 2 cities in coaching form every game. He shows you some absolute defensive mastery, and then all of a sudden his offenses forget that their objective is to move the ball forward. I mean, the loss against West Virginia, there were times where their offensive ineptitude was so bad, you were legit wondering, like, who's calling plays? Why is Desmond Reed not in the game? What is happening with this offense time and time again? And so it's and the worst part about Narduzzi is it's not just the offense either, because there's oftentimes that series or 2 where you get 2 to 3 straight pass interferences against their DBs because that's the style that Narduzzi plays. It's aggressive. It's in your face. That's kind of how he does things. So I'm very intrigued to see how that game plays as well. One of the best backfield tandems in the nation in Brown and Watson going up against the Sharks, Kyle Lewis and company. What's going to happen? Eli Holstein, can he return to that magic? He has not recaptured that magic from pre-injury last year yet. He just hasn't. Can he do it against this Louisville defense that, with all due respect, they had 2 quarterbacks, a quarterback that only came in the game to throw the ball that was moving the ball somewhat effectively down the stretch against them? That's a big question mark for Louisville. So I'm very intrigued by that game as well.
By the way, here's a quick note for you guys. Both Isaac Brown and Duke Watson. Duke didn't play in their last game. They're both questionable heading into that game on Saturday. Like questionable. It could mean 50-50 that they play. At least one of them will play, but that's something to look out for.
Ruh-roh. If neither one of them are available, I'm taking Pitt and whatever points y'all put down on it. Because with all due respect, I don't think Miller Moss can get it done. I like Dakari Collins. I like Bell. By the way, Dakari Collins transferred out of NC State, found himself a great landing spot at Louisville, and I love seeing him make plays over there. I'm not sure Miller Moss is that type of guy that you win because of. And I don't think that they have the weapons outside of those 2 backs that can make this situation when we're, hey, Miller, just don't kill us and we'll win this game.
Well, we appreciate everyone's time here, as always. Make sure you check out Kenton Gibbs and Grayson Boone on Locked On Wolfpack. Check out Isaac Shade on Locked On Tar Heels and Locked On College Basketball. Check out JJ Jackson, Locked On Blue Devils. Check me out on Locked On Canes. Kenton and I also host Locked On ACC. We'll talk to you all next time on another episode of the ACC Squad right here on the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.